Good morning, all. Hope you all are well. This is to wish you a very happy International Women's Day. The first technical session is on gendered algorithms, AI ethics, and digital hierarchies. As we see, there are a total of 6 papers with 6 minutes each given to papers and 5 minutes to Q&A. The first presenters, Ritash and Christianese Ratna Kiroba, would be talking on decolonizing digital changes, intersectional queer-trans experiences. Can we have them online?
Hi, everybody. International Women's Day greetings to everybody. And we are both queer trans people in healthcare. And I've worked considerable time in the IT industry. I'm essentially a computer science engineer and I'm now a peer counselor for the queer community. Okay, and co-founder of a pan-India intersectional queer trans collective called Rung Foundation. So very quickly, in a way, I would also like to connect with what Professor Pillai, Professor Rukmini, I'm sorry, I perhaps missed their name, but anyway, like in my IT industry experience, and even when we were studying, right, there wasn't much awareness of queerness, and in fact, I've always believed that there is deliberate, exclusion, suppression of so many socioeconomically marginalized identities, be it Dalit, Muslim, people with disabilities. I have invisible disabilities, so that just makes it worse. So I have privileges, but I don't think any of this helped us, in the pre-internet era or as we were getting familiar with the internet to find anything about myself, okay, or, I was born with a heart condition and everything else. All right. So essentially what I'm trying to say is that, and what we've said in the paper and the abstract, is that I think the digital dangers, it's not just gender-based violence, but all kinds of identity-based violence and the deliberate marginalization comes because of the way, computers, digital spaces, they were created. And in our working paper, we've ended with this note that actually we all know from, DARPA, the defense research agencies in the US, and even the way heavily there's investment in ICT now in India and so many other countries. It's a very colonial mindset, a very violent mindset with which all these are developed. And those and the deliberate exclusions, there is masculinity everywhere, white supremacy, Savarna masculinity everywhere. And that has gone into perhaps the algorithms. I think to some extent, the proliferation of AI, I mean, I studied AI some time back, but, the proliferation of AI has also shown that the way representation, whether it is using ChatGPT or any of the other, Gen AI kind of, if you get visual representations, they're deliberately, sort of programmed. Sorry if I'm using some technical terms, but anyway, I think programming is not so technical anymore. They are deliberately created in such a way that, if you get a standard design of even a woman, it's often somebody with a white, light skin, pink skin, not with curly hair. I mean, these are all just representative examples. So essentially, I think the deliberate marginalizations are built in, and the attempted or there are selective inclusions, like, people with hearing or visual disabilities to some extent can now access IT. We might say that, oh, everybody seems to have a smartphone, but what is happening over there? Why is it, certain kinds of people are attacked, online, abused, regularly harassed, and all the laws in the world, and we say even the guidelines of, say, Meta and X. I mean, we can't help mentioning these platforms. Those guidelines they automatically deplatform people like me who would, say, uh, post some pro-Palestine or Kashmir liberation kind of messages, or about some of the Bhima Koregaon 16 people who were, falsely implicated, and some of them are still in jail. Most of them are Dalit people. So essentially, the dangers, the exclusions are built in, and these platforms do not actually follow their own guidelines. Okay, so I will, and these are broad examples. In our paper, we have given specific examples, like the way I, for instance, or Christiane's, Dr. Christiane's, she has faced body shaming and trolling. So I will just quickly hand over to her to take forward the rest of the presentation. Thank you so much for this opportunity. We wish we had more time. Yeah, Christian, is over to you.
Yeah. Hello, I'm Christianis, and I'm an internal medicine physician and a writer in healthcare. I'm also a pansexual queer woman. I do not have an IT background, but what I bring to the presentation is my experience of existing as a queer person and having a personal digital space online. So the first thing that Ritash mentioned that I concur with is that it's mostly made by white people for white people kind of thing that we feel about digital spaces. It's only very recently that people of color have been introduced into both the creation, maintenance, as well as accessing for consumption of these digital spaces. Now, second thing that I wanted to mention is that content moderation has become a different thing now than what it used to be. Back in the day, what would happen was that when pride related content or my queerness related content I would post, and then if somebody says something queer phobic, I would be able to report it and that would be removed. But now, what is happening is that because content moderation teams have been downsized in all these tech companies, including Meta and X, what is happening is that when you report it, what people check it against their community guidelines, and these are mostly people whose first language or main language is English. So people get away with calling us queer-phobic slur reporting and checking these companies that are taking that there are digital and linguistic loopholes recently with X cutting um, their content moderation teams and Meta cutting their content moderation teams, and queerphobic trolls are taking advantage of this. That is one thing. The second thing, what I wanted to say is that these main social media digital spaces that we use, they are all companies which are located in the global north, and as such they follow their policies follow the politics and the beliefs of what is then accepted in the global north. And considering that now America is getting towards um, conservative values, and people like Elon Musk who are running these platforms like X are going towards transphobic values and conservative values, then one wonders what happens to open-minded countries that exist in the global south, like Thailand, who are there whose ideology is generally open-minded, but they are also using these same platforms which are run by companies who are headquartered in the global north. So, will this change in will this gen would this then require decolonization, or us coming up with digital spaces which are representative of our values as countries,
Dennis, there
is
is
also
time
something that we
restriction.
must
Can you
consider.
please sum up?
Yeah, so the last point which I wanted to make is that trolling will drive queer people out of digital spaces, which is really sad because already there is very less representation, and the online spaces are very homogeneous. But if we get driven out of these spaces, then it will become more homogeneous, and whoever queer people are left behind, they will get more hostility from trolls. So while it's important for our mental health to take breaks from social media and from the hate we receive on social media, it's also important for us to not completely remove ourselves from the conversation, because if we do so, then the representation again becomes more skewed. So that is our conclusion of the paper, where we suggest that queer trans people take digital detoxes but don't completely deplatform themselves, and ensure that their representation is still, and their voices are still heard on digital spaces.
Uh, Thank you very much, Ritas and Christian. I would like to ask our next presenter, Devans Dikshit. Yeah.
Hello, Anurag, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. Rukmani?
Hello, friends. My name is Devansh, and here I'm available to present a paper called Women's Invisible Labor in AI, Content Moderation and the Digital Economy of the Global South. I am a research scholar at SNCWS, Jamia Millia Islamia. So, the proper introduction for this topic would be that large language models or machine learning models require vast amounts of data, and that data needs to be fed to them through annotation, moderation, and labeling and categorization. So this the data processes I mentioned here, are usually outsourced to the third world because the labor is cheap here, and labor laws are weak, high availability because of course the population is much more, and these things make it a very attractive destination for Western tech firms to outsource their work, their content to us. A significant of this workforce is women, and they often work in under precarious conditions, which are often marketed as flexible digital work, or but often lead to precarity, low pay, job insecurity, and surveillance. What I want to convey here is that the women in AI data work involves people from India, Philippines, Kenya, Bangladesh. Scholars like Scholz suggest that women are concentrated in these roles due to lower wage expectations, flexible work narratives, and the perception that they are detail oriented. However, this so called flexibility translates into lower pay and job insecurity. AI powered systems, self driving cars, chatbots, facial recognition, and medical AI all are built on invisible labor of these women, yet the economic benefits accrue to Western tech firms. Algorithmic management enforces real-time monitoring, rapid task rejection, and unpredicted pay rates, keeping workers isolated and disempowered from collective bargaining. And when it comes to the processes of content moderation has been personally experienced by me, because many of my friends work in Gurgaon as content moderators for big firms like Meta, for X or YouTube. So in these things, West suggests that moderators work under high pressure quotas, facing constant surveillance and algorithmic control with low wages and no job security. Exposure to disturbing material leads to severe psychological harm, including PTSD, like symptoms of anxiety, depression, with little or no mental support. AI has not replaced human moderation. Instead, workers remain essential yet invisible, training the very systems that are supposed to automate their jobs. The exploitative nature of AI driven digital labor extends beyond content moderation to gig based microtasking as well, which the next section examines. Microtasking or gig work can be aptly summed up as the myth of digital empowerment. These are platform based, flexible digital empowerment opportunities, but they actually trap workers, especially women, into low paying, repetitive microtasks. And platforms like Amazon, Mechanical Turk, Clickworker, and Appen, as Gray and Suri suggest, they have been highly decimative of women's labor and have contributed significantly in the invisibilization of the labor. Apart from that, the ghost work, as Irani suggests in her paper, these platforms operate under ghost work conditions where workers perform critical AI related tasks, that is, annotation, transcription, sentiment analysis, yet remain invisible, disposable, and without labor protections. Algorithmic wage suppression ensures that workers are paid per task, not per hour, often earning below minimum wage while competing in a global digital labor market with no bargaining power. Women, especially from low income backgrounds, enter these platforms due to household responsibilities, believing they offer some work life balance between the family and the professional life, only to find themselves in a cycle of economic precarity and digital servitude. Governments in the global south frame gig work as digital empowerment. Very recently, if I'm not wrong, last year our finance minister too said that the job creation in the gig economy has boosted our economy as well as the per capita income of the country. But what I actively believe is that they facilitate labor exploitation by failing to regulate platform economies or ensure fair wage policies. These patterns
Devans,
reveal that
please sum
platform.
up. Your
Yeah,
time is.
yeah. Just summing up. I'm on the conclusion itself, Sajid. So, what needs to be done? The conclusion is also the way forward. What needs to be done is the governments of the global south, they need to come up together. They need to form stringent laws that help our population and don't let Western tech firms exploit the labor of the global south. Gender data extractivism is a core pillar of AI's global economy, yet it remains invisible and unregulated. This needs to be regulated, curtailed. We need to put in legal protections and labor rights. And AI development should also be, in a sense, state sponsored and state regulated. The sponsored part has come up. We also see Government of India's inferences in this domain. And Kenya has recently bought a bill. Spain has a bill. EU has a complete department for AI. I think that this should be the way forward. From these words, I finish my presentation. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Devansh. The next speaker, Shikha Vashishta, would be speaking on AI-driven sextortion and reproductive coercion in India, digital patriarchy, and the crisis of women's autonomy. Can we have Shikha online?
Yes, ma'am. Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So, good morning, everyone. I am Shikha Vashisht, a research scholar at Bennett University. Today, my presentation focuses on AI-driven sextortion and reproductive coercion in India, specifically in the states of Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, and West Bengal. So, as we all know that while AI has revolutionized digital spaces, but it has also intensified cyber gender-based violence, which essentially reinforces the patriarchal control over women's body. As we have seen that deepfake pornography, cyber blackmail, and also algorithmic surveillance are being used to manipulate, threaten, and silence women, often causing them into unwanted relationships or reproductive decisions. This study examines how legal loopholes, weak enforcement, and socio-cultural stigmas allows such crimes to basically persist. And through my empirical research, I would explore the scope of AI facilitated digital violence, its impact on victims, and the urgent need for policy reforms. So, I would also discuss the imperatives for policy and legal reform, which essentially revolves around the survivor centered justice frameworks. So, to understand the AI driven sextortion and reproductive coercion, my research applies four key theoretical perspectives. First is digital patriarchy, which argues that AI technology has deepened gendered hierarchies online, and it is essentially reinforcing real world patriarchal control over women's autonomy. Second is cyber feminism and neoliberal erasure, which argues that while digital spaces are seen as neutral, women's unique vulnerabilities, such as the AI enabled exploitation, are overlooked. without third, coercion is a hybrid form of gendered violence, which essentially threatens women's bodily autonomy and consent. Next, I would like to move towards the research questions and research objectives. So my research questions revolves around how do AI-driven sextortion and digital reproductive coercion unfold in the states of UP, West Bengal, and Maharashtra. Second of my research question is what legal and socio-cultural factors facilitate or hinder these cyber crimes. My third research question is how effective are these current legal frameworks and enforcement mechanisms in addressing AI facilitated gender based violence. So, as part of my methodology for the paper, I have employed a qualitative empirical approach to analyze the domain, for which I have gathered data using semi-structured interviews with 50 participants, which included 30 survivors aged between 18 years to 35 years. And I had also interviewed digital right activists and also legal professionals. In addition to that, I have also analyzed the various case laws like Priyanka Shukla versus Union of India, which revolves around the same reproductive coercion and digital patriarchy being influenced on women's autonomy. Sorry. And regarding the participant state selection, I have employed purposive sampling through digital right NGOs and legal aid centers to target women disproportionately affected by cyber exploitation. Also, this research is a trauma sensitive approach where I have integrated counseling support for participants also, and confidentiality and informed consent is also ensured for anonymity and psychologically safe environment for the survivors. So now I would like to move towards my next topic, which revolves around the discussion on AI driven sextortion and reproductive coercion, in which I have analyzed that AI is increasingly weaponized to perpetrate gender-based violence digitally, particularly through sextortion and reproductive coercion, in which we have studied the cases regarding deepfake technology and cyber blackmail. And the legal gaps, like India's cyber laws lack AI specific provisions, making it difficult to prosecute the offenders. Loopholes in the IT Act and IPC allow perpetrators to evade the accountability. So, to combat AI driven reproductive coercion, we must strengthen our laws, improve enforcement, and implement survivor centered digital justice measures. Now, I would like to highlight several of my empirical findings based on the interviews that I have conducted. First, I have listed here the quantitative insights. These are the empirical data from the 50 interviews that I have conducted with the survivors, legal experts, digital right activists, which reveal alarming trends. Like we can see that 78% of survivors reported being targeted with AI generated explicit images, which are highest in Maharashtra, that is 82%, and followed by West Bengal and Uttar Pradesh. 62% experienced digital blackmail leading to reproductive coercion, highlighting the intersection of cyber exploitation and bodily autonomy. However, only 28%.
Please, time. You
Okay.
have to kindly
Okay,
sum
thank
up.
you. Okay. So now I would like to move towards my key qualitative insights. Herein, I have highlighted the narratives of the interviewees that are placed according to various states. Like in Uttar Pradesh, I have highlighted the selective narratives wherein we can see that like this, a survivor which is from Kanpur had told me that the police told me to delete my social media accounts instead of taking action against the blackmailer. And similarly, we can see the cybercrime investigator where he shared us a narrative of hers that deepfake porn is being sold on WhatsApp groups and young girls are the main targets, and we don't even know how many are affected. Similarly, in the state of Maharashtra also, we have seen the same demeaning narratives of the society towards the survivors. And in the table 3, similarly, in West Bengal, we have seen the narratives too. These all the narratives are listed on my paper, and the analysis on this also. So now, due to paucity of time, I would like to quickly rush through the comparative analysis. So in comparative analysis, I have identified that across all the states, weak legal responses, social stigma, and law enforcement failures persist, and underscoring the urgent need for AI specific cyber laws and survivor centered justice mechanisms. So, as part of the legal and policy gaps in addressing gender based violence, I have identified that there are regulatory gaps in platform accountability, which essentially necessitates the need for survivor centric legal reforms and enhanced digital governance and policy reforms. So, as part of the discussion and conclusion, I would like to highlight that AI has weaponized to control and exploit women, reinforcing existing gender hierarchies. The fear of stigma prevents victims from reporting, worsening underreporting and impunity. AI facilitated reproductive coercion blurs the line between the digital and real world bodily autonomy violations. India lags behind on global legal standards, necessitating urgent feminist legal interventions. So, to conclude, I would like to say that India's cybercrime laws are quite inadequate in addressing AI enabled sexual exploitation, leaving survivors still vulnerable. Urgent reforms are needed, including AI specific cybercrime laws, survivor centered legal mechanisms, and enhanced law enforcement training. Because all these digital threats have real world consequences on women's autonomy, mental well being, and also, more importantly, the reproductive rights. So, without proactive intervention, AI driven gender oppression will continue to evolve, further entrenching digital patriarchy. Thank you, and I welcome any questions.
Thank you, Shikha. Next up, we have Priyadarshini Karan, who would be talking on femtech, digital colonialism, and reproductive surveillance, a critical analysis of period tracking apps in India. Can we have Priyadarshini online?
Yes. Am I audible?
Yes.
So, very good morning to all. My name is Priyadarshini Karan, and I'm a PhD scholar at the Department of Sociology at Tezpur University, Assam. So, before beginning, I would like to wish everyone a very happy Women's Day. And as already Rukmini has already mentioned my title, I would just go forward with the introductions because of the time constraint. So, the promise and the paradox of femtech is what we are going to talk about today. So, let's begin with the story of a young woman in Mumbai, let's call her Aditi, installs a popular period tracking app hoping it will help her predict her cycle more accurately. She enters intimate details about her body, when her period starts, her mood fluctuations, even her sexual activity. So this app reassures her, we are here to empower you. But what Aditi doesn't know is that her data doesn't just stay with her. It is stored in foreign servers, analyzed by AI algorithms, and even shared with advertisers, pharmaceutical companies, and insurers. So if she decides to stop using the app, she has no way of knowing if her data has truly been deleted. So Aditi here is not alone. In a 2022 study by the Privacy International, over 60% of femtech apps were found to share reproductive data with advertisers and insurance firms, often without clear user awareness. So this study asks, who really benefits from the femtech in India, user or corporations? How does femtech reinforce digital colonialism where data from the global south is monetized by corporations in the global north? What risks do Indian users face in the country where data protection laws tends to remain weak? So to answer this question, I critically analyze femtech's role in reproductive data governance, algorithmic surveillance, and digital colonialism. So following this digital trail, to uncover how femtech operates in India, my study adopts a multi-pronged qualitative approach where firstly, I have done a policy analysis of India's digital Personal Data Protection DPDP Act of 2023 and compare it with Europe's GDPR to understand the regulatory gaps, do a platform analysis by reviewing privacy policies and terms of services of apps like Flow, Maya, etc. I access the data sharing practices. Well, I have mentioned about the MFine app in my abstract. So even of integration with the AI-driven health analytics tends to raise similar concerns regarding data privacy and reproductive health governance. I have also done an algorithmic critique where I investigate how AI-driven reproductive health analytics tends to shape self-tracking behaviors and risk classification. And lastly, for my theoretical framework, I have engaged with feminist technology studies, digital colonialism, and surveillance capitalism to interpret how femtech constructs reproductive governance. So, through these lenses, I trace how users' reproductive health data moves from the personal to the political, from the private diaries to the corporate databases. So this brings us to the results, the dark side of femtech. So who owns your data? So imagine a river that flows only one way, from India to Silicon Valley. That's how femtech's data economy works. So Indian users generate millions of data points on menstruation, fertility, and sexual health. This data is collected by apps on the Amazon Web Services or Google Cloud and monetized by corporations in the global north. This data, unlike the Europe's GDPR, India's DPDP Act does not classify reproductive health data as sensitive, allowing unrestricted cross-border data transfer. So while femtech markets itself as an enabler of bodily autonomy, its economic model mirrors colonial era resource extraction, where data, not gold or spices, is the new currency. This brings us to the algorithmic reproductive surveillance, the invisible hand that actually guides your choices. So let's go back to Aditi, the first example that I used in our introduction, our Mumbai user. She receives a very unexpected notification from a period tracking app. So your cycle seems irregular. Would you like to consult a doctor? So she wonders if her cycle is really irregular, or is the app nudging her towards paid consultation? This reflects on the algorithmic risk categorization, where apps tends to create predictive models that determine whether user cycles are normal or risky. These models are trained on Euro-American biomedical data, marginalizing South Asian variations, and also which heavily promote digital hierarchies. So users are nudged into logging more data, reinforcing corporate profit cycles. Even state actors are entering this space. In India, femtech data is being integrated with Aadhaar-linked digital health programs, raising concerns about state surveillance of reproductive choices. So what began as a personal health tool now functions as an algorithmic gatekeeper to reproductive autonomy. So let's take another case, this time from the US. So after Roe versus Wade was overturned, that case was overturned, law enforcement agencies began to subpoena femtech data to investigate abortion seekers. So the first question is, could this happen?
Priyadarshini, kindly
Yes.
sum up because you have lacking your time.
Okay, so could this happen in India? So investigation reveals that period tracking apps tends to share sensitive reproductive data with third-party advertisers, insurers, and pharmaceutical firms. So it's lead to state-controlled reproductive monitoring, and also due to the lack of legal protections, India's DPDP Act does not prevent corporate or state misuse of femtech data. So if reproductive data can be weaponized against users, femtech is not just a privacy issue, it has become a power issue. So who controls your reproductive knowledge? Femtech, who was supposed to empower its users, yet it increasingly serves as a tool of corporate surveillance, algorithmic governance, and state control, which leads to potential reproductive policing. So what can we do? Firstly, is to strengthen the data protection. Increase algorithmic transparency, where users deserve to know how AI-driven reproductive insights are created and who benefits from them. Support decolonial and feminist tech initiatives. And femtech should not just be about data extraction, it should be about reproductive liberation. So the future of femtech must be ethical and not exploitative. So let's return to Aditi. So one day she reads an article about her period tracking app and shares data with her advertisers. That she deletes the app, but she wonders, is her data really gone? So her story reflects a larger crisis in digital reproductive governance. So if femtech is to serve its original promise of empowerment, it must move beyond the profit-driven surveillance cycles, the surveillance models. The future of digital reproductive health must center care, consent, and collective well-being, and not corporate interests. Without these changes, femtech will remain a tool of digital colonialism, reinforcing the very hierarchies that it claims to dismantle. So the question remains, can we reclaim femtech before it reclaims us? So if our bodies are data, then controlling data is controlling bodies. Who holds the power? So this is not an academic question. It is actually a call for action. And with that, I end my presentation. Thank you so much.
Rukmini?
Thank you, Pradarshini. Next up, we have Sangeeta Kumawat, who would be talking on examining internet privacy policies within the context of user privacy behavior. Can we have her online? Sangeeta Kumawat?
Yes, ma'am. Hello.
Yes, yes.
Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, ma'am. May I share my screen, ma'am? Hello.
Yes, please.
May I share my screen, ma'am?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, ma'am. There is some network issues, so I'm unable to share my screen. May I continue with my video on?
Yeah, sure. Please.
Myself, Sangeeta Kumar. I am pursuing my PhD degree under the guidance of Dr. Vilas Chauhan, sir, from the Maharaja Sayaji Rao University, Vadodara, Gujarat. The title of my research paper is Examining Internet Privacy Policies Within the Context of User Privacy Behavior. Coming to the introduction point, what is privacy? Privacy is a human right that prevents intrusion and or trespassing. Once personal information, it helps to ensure human dignity, safety, and self-determination. If we talk about consumer privacy is information privacy as it relates to the consumers of products and services. I have studied privacy policies and data protection laws that help the consumers to build and maintain a trust relationship with the company, whereas the marketers or the companies get benefited in the form of obtaining prior consent before processing of data. Some of the government laws, constitutional laws are as follow: Information Technology Act 2000, the Personal Data Protection Bill 2006, Telecom Unsolicited Commercial Communications Regulations 2007, Personal Data Protection Bill 2019, the Digital Personal Data Protection Act 2023. The research objectives of my study are as follow: to get insight into the online browsing behavior of males and females, to know the awareness among males and females about privacy, concern and its related concepts, to understand the level of disclosing personal information of males and females, to explore the perceived degree of sensitivity of males and females towards privacy concern, to study the privacy related behavior of males and females. Why do we need to study privacy? The study examines the definitions and objectives of security and privacy and analyzes their impact on individuals, organizations, and society. The study also investigates the legal and ethical implications of security and privacy, including data protection laws, surveillance, and government policies. Research question of the study are as follow. My questionnaire was divided into 4 parts. The first one was general questions on internet browsing behavior, and second one was awareness about privacy concern concept, and third one was privacy related behavior. Appropriate skills were used to measure the behavior aspects of the respondents. In all these areas, 5-point Likert scale was anchored with strongly disagree, agree to strongly agree. Scope and limitation of the study was as the data may be collected through the questionnaire, there may be possibility that respondents may not be fully loyal in answering the questions due to lack of interest as well as lack of knowledge about various terminologies about online browsing behavior respondents may not have responded with high level of accuracy. The research design and sample size used in the research study may limit the findings of the study, along with the statistical software and tools used by the researcher. With the findings and conclusion, respondents, when asked about the importance given by them between the two, convenience or privacy, surprisingly, 230 out of 230 respondents, 73.91 favored privacy, as against 60 or 26.09 voted for convenience. Further, from among 230 respondents, most of the time, 106 respondents, approximately 46.81, either refused to give personal information or were also ready to leave the website. Also, more than 93% of total respondents, i.e., 215 respondents, often been invaded because of the marketing companies undertaken by the marketers or by the advertising companies. Yes, or service providing companies too. The study of the privacy related behavior to study the privacy related behavior of respondents, some basic questions related to general caution and technical protection were asked again. Based on the frequency analysis, the findings of the both revealed some interesting findings. About 78.26% of the respondents registered only for those websites which followed a strict privacy policy, and that too after reading the website privacy policy. Not only this, only 96.52% of the respondents looked for a privacy certification on the website before registration on the website to license agreements before registering on the website. Regarding technical protection, majority of respondents, around 97%, are looking for ways to control. Around 84.34 regarding what is sent to them. Removal of keys using a pop-up window blockers or check for spywares, remove their browsing history, etc. Overall, it can be concluded that the respondents are aware of and do apply proper preventive measures and or get involved into protective behavior. This is all from my side. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anurag, you may please take over and take the Q&A.
Yeah, thank you, Sangeeta, for your presentation. I would like to ask participants if they have any questions. We have a question from Yusra. Could AI-generated sextortion evolved to point where victims are harassed entirely by autonomous systems without direct human intervention? I think this question should be for Priyadarshini.
No, for Shikha Vashisht.
Yes, ma'am.
Sika. Yeah, for Sika. I'm sorry.
Yes, Yusra, thank you for the important question. So, according to my understanding, yes, AI generated sextortion could evolve to where autonomous systems perpetrate harassment without direct human intervention, as AI models can autonomously generate deepfake content, send blackmail messages, and maintain continuous harassment through automated chatbots. A notable example is I can think of is like a website that is a parody website named rentahitman.com, where automated responses misled users into believing that they could hire hitmen. Um, while intended as a satire, it highlighted how automated systems could facilitate crimes without human oversight. Similarly, in 2023, a UK case involved an AI chatbot that autonomously sent manipulative text to a victim, impersonating her ex-partner, leading to psychological distress. So here we can see that the perpetrator only programmed the initial commands, but the chatbot adapted its responses autonomously. In present times, with generative AI advancing, tools like ChatGPT could potentially be weaponized to create realistic fake messages, images, or even videos, which essentially amplify the psychological impact on victims. So this scenario demands proactive legislation, robust AI ethics guidelines, and also technologically driven safeguards to prevent the misuse of autonomous AI systems for gender based digital violence. Thank you. I think I have answered your question.
Thank you, Sikha. Our next question is asked by K. Anu. Thanks to Priyadarshini for spreading light to a sensitive issue. Based on your research, what would you recommend to address the issue of digital colonialism in concept with femtech? Is it just policy that is to be considered? How users would be made cautions to use of their data against their content while they access the service of such apps? Priyadarshini?
Thank you so much for such an interesting question. So, even though my research is limited, or and I like mostly focusing on the policies and the legal frameworks, but apart from that, I would suggest to encourage community driven open source femtech platforms. For instance, let's say when I have talked about the GDPR and the DPDP policy, where it's while while comparing both of them, it is seen that they have the GDPR does not the DPDP Act does not really consider reproductive health as a sensitive issue. So while taking proper informed consent should be taken before a user is if the user is willing to share such information, so they should have the user should be given a proper right as to if they want to share this particular data or not, and proper details, proper information should be given to them. Apart from that, like you know promote privacy enhancement tools, and also talk about the anonymous usage, or let's say decentralized femtech services. Apart from that, even though I have mentioned or focus mostly on policy reforms, so digital colonialism in femtech requires a broader movement where people should be aware of the ethical tech development, and also user education. So basically I would urge the femtech users to have proper digital literacy to protect their reproductive autonomy, and also to promote a design which is which focuses on privacy, and a decolonial design where it should not just promote the Euro American biomedical data, but also take into consideration the empirical the epistemic knowledge of the people as well. For instance, let's say it is basically focusing on the urban, on the the urban classes and the cisgender women, without taking into consideration women, for instance, who has PCOD issues, who's cycle is not cycle could not be predicted in the app itself. So all of this should be taken into consideration. And also mostly digital literacy is very important. And lastly, it's they should also promote something which is prioritize privacy over corporate interests. So I hope this answers your question, and I'm able to answer at least bit of I have tried to be a little clearer, and I hope that you have understood what I'm exactly trying to reflect on. Thank you.
Thank you, Priyadarshini. If anyone else have questions, but I would like to post a question to our presenters. Means anyone, if they enlighten that they are especially if Sikha. So, for example, AI always takes data from people only. Now, if you think it this way, that it's kind of it's take data and reflect it. So we can put a question in this way that cinema represents the society or society represents the cinema. So my question is, so how means AI is only the AI only is showing what is this society is. So because it's a impartial, as you said recently. So what is your stand that how should we work on AI or should we work on society? Please, anyone?
Can I answer that question, please?
Yeah, sure, please.
Yeah, like I said, actually, AI is not half as impartial as we think. Okay, that is why, I mean, I'm saying, I'm not presuming that everybody here is not from an IT background, but if you go, just like we were talking now, we say deep fake, deep tech, everything. If you do a deep dive into some of the basic algorithms, for instance, why do we say, use keywords in your papers, articles, whatever? Because we want the search engines to catch them, right? To kind of bring, to display or bring up our articles. There's also search engine optimization and you kind of rewrite your stuff. So similarly, AI also, like we even said, the whole, I like the way we are, linking colonialism. This is digital colonialism, actually. It is programmed, and you cannot take out the white supremacy from their mindset. And sometimes it's deliberate. Okay. In fact, that young person, of Indian origin, who obviously they said suicide, but obviously they ended their life. I'm sorry, that they were killed from, I think, Google or one of the Silicon Valley companies, a couple of months ago, right? 24-year-old engineer was found dead because they let out so many of the so-called secrets of how so much of these algorithms, to their policies, to everything over there is about not just domination, but and all the antitrust allegations or legislations in the world cannot stand up to this. We know Microsoft got away with so many antitrust, So that's why we say that Google is the new Microsoft. Okay, in a very and perhaps a more stable Microsoft technologically. But otherwise, I mean, it was founded by Zionists. Okay, what else can you say? You cannot take this away from them, that the algorithms are biased, their policies are biased, and this whole, I mean, if you see the guidelines, even Elon Musk notwithstanding, all of X's or Twitter's guidelines earlier also was supposed to be protective, okay? But they never safeguarded the ones who needed to be safeguarded. There are numerous real-life examples, okay? They see a woman with a hijab. I know one, South African woman. She's a professor at a university in over there, okay? Very vocal. She had posted something, nothing to do with anything, so-called politically sensitive or whatever. She just posted something about, many years ago, I think something around gender and, some kind of a celebratory thing. And she faced so much hate because her picture was there. Okay. So, and if at all she complained, and I'm sure she never got, I mean, I met her briefly, So she's not the kind of person who will take this lightly. Okay. So essentially, all the bias is there. It is deeper, and just one more example I'll give you. When there is data theft, when there is, financial cybercrime, you see the kind of traction it gets, the way police will swing into action. They will, go after Interpol and all that, to help and stuff cross border. But how many of our identity based violence is getting even offline or online help? Okay. And that is why we say that so many of us unfortunately have normalized violence in real life. So virtually also, we keep doing our digital detox, have our support groups, like for example, I said about Texaki, Uli and all that, but keep coming back online. There used to be these things called Twitter storm. I think we have to keep doing these internet storms. There is no option, so that's all. I will stop with this. Okay. Basically reclaiming our space all the time. And it's fantastic that you people are organizing this on Women's Day. Maybe it was a strategy. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ritas. Next question is to Devans. Why are
Shikha also wants to respond, so first take her response.
Yeah, sure. Please, Shikha.
Thank you so much. I would like to add to response to the question which Devans sir asked just now. So, according to my understanding, AI is not inherently biased or harmful. It reflects the data on which it is trained on, which is shaped by the societal norms, historical biases, and also the cultural narratives. So this raises the question that Devansh just highlighted, that does AI represent society or does society influence AI? So we can say that the answer to this is not either or. We must work on both AI and society simultaneously. Since AI is trained on societal data, improving society's narratives, media representation, and digital ethics will create better data for AI to learn from. For example, if cinema portrays stereotypical gender roles, AI models will be trained on film data and amplify those stereotypes. If society produces diverse, unbiased content, AI will mirror those positive changes too. At the same time, AI development must include ethical safeguards like algorithmic transparencies, bias audits, and diverse training data sets. For example, Google and OpenAI have begun implementing bias detection models to prevent harmful outputs. Thus, we must change society's biases while ensuring that AI does not reinforce or magnify them. So, by promoting fairness, inclusion, accountability in the digital spaces, ethical AI development cannot replace societal progress, but it can support it. That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So again, if
I am so sorry to interrupt, Anurag, but I just wanted to ask Shikha about what she talked about AI and how it reflects on the society that she was talking about. But I just wanted to counter, not in a sense counter, but I just wanted her to reflect on how the society in general are you talking about, or is it for instance, let's say or is it more focused into uh, taking into account the Western paradigms? For instance, where I have talked about period tracking apps. So I would just say, don't you feel like it is more centered towards the cisgender women, or more reflecting on the upper class women, in a sense that so the South Asian variations are not taken into account? That is what I am saying. For instance, we are very culturally vibrant, in a sense that we all have very different reproductive health practices, or hormonal fluctuations. So for instance, mostly the period tracking app shows 28-day cycle, but a person with a PCOD does not have uh, a 28-day cycle. And for instance, like as I've mentioned, like cisgender women, that does it really reflect when you're talking about society? I would just wanted to ask that does it really reflect on the transgender women, let's say, or like women who wanted to who wanted to gain certain information as to how the workings of the period is? So that is what I am asking. So like, is it really like could you really say that AI reflects on the society in general, and like what like and like AI is like based on like what exactly society expect out of them? I mean, there is an algorithm, and due to the algorithmic surveillance, we are able to see what actually we are thinking about. Like for instance, I'm thinking about something and suddenly I'm seeing it on Instagram, or it like something like that. But does it really reflect on the society in general, or is it like focusing on certain section of women? So I just wanted you to reflect on that, and what is your stance as to like your stance as a woman, let's say, like even though like so that is it. That is what I was just asking, like yeah.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you for an excellent and critical point. So, I would like to highlight that AI doesn't just reflect society, it reflects the dominant narratives of society, which often marginalizes voices that don't fit mainstream data patterns. For example, as you said, that most period tracking apps assumes a 28-day cycle, which is largely modeled on cisgender women without accounting for the conditions like PCOD, PCOS, or the hormonal needs of transgender individuals. This example specifically shows us that the AI systems often cater to the majority experience, reinforcing the medical biases while excluding those with non normative reproductive health experiences. Similarly, when we talk about AI, when AI is trained on cis-normative medical data, it fails to represent transgender women. For instance, AI based health chatbots often exclude trans healthcare needs, such as the HRT, which is the hormone replacement therapy, monitoring, or post surgical reproductive health guidance, also. Or for that matter, so does AI truly reflect society? No, it reflects what society prioritizes. It inherits systemic exclusions unless intentionally corrected through inclusive data collection, intersectional AI design, and also trans inclusive algorithmic training. So, for AI to serve all individuals, we must ensure that marginalized experiences are actively integrated into the data sets rather than assuming that the one size fits all societal norms.
Thank you. I think it's a debate when if we go on, then go on. It's like there is no end. But I would like to put the question of Yusra to Devans. Devans, are you there? So Yusra has asked, why are women content moderators in the global south treated as disposable labor despite being crucial to AI functionality? To Devans.
So in the global south, am I audible, Anurag?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So the disposability of women content moderators, especially in the global south, is I think structural. It's structural in the sense that women labor has always been undervalued, yet undisposable in the traditional economic sense as well. If we see that still the minimum wages for women and men differ highly in traditional physical labor, and that has also translated into the digital work that has come up with the uh, inundance of AI and content moderation and other works. Second thing is that this work is highly invisible. Like content moderators are people operating behind the curtains. So when people operate behind the curtains, they genuinely abstain, or they are generally aloof from the public discourse. So this debate has never truly risen in the public discourse as to why the global south, having such a huge population offering such efficient and cheap labor, is still treated as disposable. although their contribution in the functionality of the systems is very high. Second part is that algorithmic management works. Algorithmic management vis-a-vis content moderation works specifically on set parameters like what is your accuracy, what is your target, how much content have you reviewed. It's as I said, it's not per hour, it's per task. And when it is per task, then and you have a system that gives you value on the tasks you do, not on the amount of time you invest in it. And also you have an army of cheap labor that is ready to displace you, that is ready to replace you at any instant. So and apart from that, it is also coupled with the legal loopholes that governments in the global south have not been able to nip in the bud. They should have been done it, they should have been done, but they have not yet achieved it. All these 3 4 factors, they all combine together, and that is why I believe that women become disposable, yet being highly functional to the systems in content moderation and AI specifically. Thank you, Anurag.
Ladies and gentlemen, and esteemed guests, our professors, fellow research scholars, and friends, on behalf of Sarojini Naidu Centre for Women's Studies, I extend my sincerest gratitude to everyone present here today. Your presence has made this Young Researchers Conference 2025 truly special. We would like to express our heartful thanks to Ritas, Christians, Devans, Sikha, Priyadarshini, and Sangeeta for their invaluable contributions. We are also grateful to our director, Professor Jayadi ma'am, and our professors, research scholars who have made this possible, for their generous support. Finally, thank you all for your time and participation. We hope you enjoyed the event. Thank you.